anh, dear Sangha, dear respected teacher, dear noble family. So beautiful to gather together to create a collective energy. And from the chanting, we can already feel a lot of healing, a lot of it's like the trees outside for the winter, right? So we are doing something very natural. We should do this more often. Just so nice to cry, huh? Yeah. I see some people crying but smiling. It's possible to cry and smile. It's beautiful. It's very healing. So let us listen to 3 sounds of the bell in the same spirit. To just let go. Let go of our body, relax. You don't need to try. And don't try to get anything. You are perfect the way you are. Just close your eyes and train yourself. Every time you hear the bell, to love yourself. When you hear the sound of the bell, take a breath of love. And smile, a gentle smile to yourself. The smile reminds us that love is possible. Breathing in, I smile to myself. Breathing out, I love myself, my body, my whole being. Dear respected Thai, dear beloved family, today we pretend that it is the end of the year coming. Yeah, we make an excuse to come together to celebrate and to remember. Today's talk, I can call it breathe and remember. Many of you remember to come back to Plum Village, so this is wonderful. Plum Village is like a spiritual family. And I see a lot of familiar faces. Every year you make yourself and you come back. And we all need a spiritual home. This is something lacking in our society. Something very important in our life as a human being. Because we're not just going around eating and trying to make a living and get a car and a house and so on. But there's another dimension that involves the spirit. It's the same stuff that makes us cry. It's the spirit that also makes us joyful, happy. There's something more than just running around, right? So I remember in my family we have an altar where our ancestor, say like the home of our ancestor. It's a room they set out. My family is half Chinese, and my father's Chinese, and my mother is Vietnamese. And we have 3 altars. Actually, one altar is for the ancestor, like the Chinese ancestral worship. And then in the center is our family, blood family ancestor. And then on top is the Buddha statue, the spiritual ancestor. I remember in that room, once in a while I see my grandma light an incense. And I remember growing up, and that was a place where you don't run around and you make a lot of noise. And every time I get good grades, my grandma would, when I was little, we put an incense on the altar. I like to put in the middle one because the one's too high and that one's too low. But this is something from our culture. But Thai has introduced it more open, not Chinese, not Vietnamese, but more, they call it like a breathing room, a place, a peace room, a spiritual room, a room where you dedicate for peace and for coming back and remembering. In that room could be empty of furniture, right? We have a living room, dining room, now entertainment room. Some people have a bureau, like an office room. Many rooms, right? A room for the car even, right? But we don't have a room for peace. So Thai has introduced us. We need a room for, and every time someone in the family have difficulty, they can go there. And once the door or the curtain is closed, is peace. You cannot disturb, even if it's your child. So we go there and we breathe and we come back to ourselves. Much like you are coming back to Plum Village as a village, in each home needs a little kind of room like that. So this is something to remind everyone that please try your best. If you don't have an extra room, make it a corner somewhere. You put something to remind you that there is something more important than just running around. For me, this is what I learned, that there's something, our ancestor, we remember. Today's society, there's a lot of people very lonely, very alienated, disconnected. There's many ways to communicate, but more and more I see people. I just came back from the United States and we've been going tour there, and we had many retreats. And this is something lacking in people, a kind of a reconnection, coming back and knowing that we are not alone. And this is something we can cultivate. So the spiritual home, the spiritual room is like a bank account. You have a bank account, you put money in, and every time you look, I feel secure, right? The number is, right? When it goes down, right? Is the spiritual room, the altar is like that. The more you remember, the more rich your connection, you see? So when we join our palms like that, and we bow, we're putting in spiritual money. Yeah? It's very practical. It's nothing mystical and superstitious. When we remember, we are actually, in science now they call the neural pathway, right? When you remember, it's just making that pathway more strong, right? So it's nothing, and like, what are they doing, What they're doing is they're cultivating their spiritual bank. They remember that they are not alone. They remember that there's something more important than just running around and getting things. So the practice of mindfulness can also be described as a practice of remembering. The word smrti in Sanskrit, it's been translated as mindfulness, but it's also sometimes translated as remembering. Isn't it wonderful? Because most of the time we live in forgetfulness. See, now it makes sense. Mindfulness, you take a breath and you remember. And you remember to take a breath. When you do forget to take a breath, what happens? You're probably reacting, or you're overwhelmed with something. So training to remember to breathe is also an investment, is a cultivation. And this doesn't come naturally, because most of society now train us to be on the run, to be constantly doing and managing too many things. So we're actually trained by society, by our family, by education to do kind of the reverse. We forget. So training to remember to breathe is, so sit and just breathe. And know and remember what? First, that you're alive. Just simply breathing and knowing you're alive. This is not something mystical. This is real. But we forget. We run around thinking, worrying, or what's next, or what's on the program today, or I hope it's going to be good today, later. So we're constantly running to the future. And we just simply forget that right now, in this present moment, I am alive. Is that enough? One day, we will not breathe. And that day, you cannot avoid. But now we are breathing fresh air. So we remember that we're alive. And simply being alive is a gift. We're born as a human being, 2 legs. We evolved. It took millions of years to evolve to these 2 eyes and these ears. Isn't it beautiful, that remembering that life is a miracle and we're given a chance to live it. taking a breath, I know I'm alive. When we take a breath, we can also train to remember that we have a body. There's a little tension. We remember to relax. You see mindfulness? Remember. You remember, oh, I usually sit like this. Then you remember, okay, I sit a little bit, open more, huh? Some of us forget and we have a... Bring your attention there. Remember, relax. Your two arms, relax your two arms. Remember to relax. So it's a training. And when we forget, we actually start to get tight because we're trained like that to strive, to achieve, to run. So that is forgetfulness. To relax our body, we don't even know that we're... Sometimes we sit at the computer and for hours using certain muscles and we get very tense and we get sick. So learning to remember that we have a heart, we have a lungs, we have stomach. You will learn this, we will have total relaxation later. And please, that's the practice to remember that you have a body and you need to take care of it. So breathing in, we'll listen to one sound of the bell and we can train right now. In this moment, I remember I have a body given to me by my ancestor. My ancestors are within me. I smile to my ancestors. During the recent tour, we had many retreats in America. The groups, the family, the groups that I took care of, there was a lot of discussion throughout the tour for 3 months about safety, people feeling not safe, very insecure, nothing to rely on anymore. The world, the climate, everything is so turbulent and not dependable. This is partially true based on the media and what they are putting out. And so we have to be careful about how much we take in. Some people take in too much media, too much information, and a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear, a lot of unsafe insecurity they ingest. So this might be some truth to it, but we need to be careful to also take care of ourselves. So safety also needs, we need to find a place that is safe within us so that we can be strong to do and to make a difference. So how we take in information, how we get informed and so on, must be done intelligently, moderately, just so you know. So not too much so that you water that and you're constantly in anxiety and fear and feel unsafe. So the practice of mindfulness, of coming back to your spiritual room, turning to that place so we can create a safe island, a safe home for ourselves. So we breathe, and we need to build that safe place. In our Plum Village tradition, we call the island within. This needs to be safe. We need to have that place within us to rely on. Each one of us, we have difficulties. We have with ourselves. We have some afflictions. We have many still worked out emotions. Many relationships that are not so stable. But for us to confront these situations, we need to invest and build this safe place. So the practice of breathing and coming back to ourselves, that is very reliable. And that is something that can be trained and cultivated. When we have a strong emotion, when we read something that causes a strong emotion to come up, we learn to come back and take care of that and not allow it to multiply, and we create anxiety and fear in us. So this is very important for all of us to remember. And this is something difficult to remember, because we go back outside the Plum Village and we don't have support, and so we can lose ourselves. So when we feel unsafe is because we lose ourselves. So someone is threatening, someone has some kind of energy next to you. If we are solid, if we have trained ourselves to feel safe, there's no threat. They might be angry, they might be resentful, they might have some emotion, but we know from our own practice that they are feeling unsafe. That's why there's aggression. So our safety is also very good protection. When we are solid and we are safe inside, no one can threaten us. And the way that is an energy that we can all have. They would call solidity. It is the mountain in us. And we can cultivate that. Each one of us needs a mountain. That is the safe energy that we all have. Sometimes we might not feel it. We feel very vulnerable. We might be in a situation, in an environment that is very unstable, very insecure. But we can find an island. We can take a walk. We can go in the forest, go into nature. If you cannot find it in humans, people who are solid around you, go to nature. Hug a tree. Touch the earth, Mother Earth. These will not let you down. Look at the sun, the stars, the moon. So these elements are within us, and they are very can nourish us and give us a kind of a more steady, something more dependable. And this is something needs to be cultivated. When we feel unsettled, we need to come back to our breath. And our breathing can help calm us. So our breath is something also very stable if we invest in it. Our breath can guide our pathways. We can get lost in a thought, an emotion. We can train ourselves. And so the breath becomes a trigger. I've been through this before. I know how this feels like. My hand is sweaty, my heart is beating. This is the time to come back to my island. So you remove yourself come back. You can use your hand to help. So these are very practical training to help us create a safe place for ourselves. That will give us stability when we need to confront what we need to confront. And right now, the world needs some healthy people to do the work. Sorry, but please heal. But Mother Earth needs us. Mother Earth is us, and she's crying for us. And suffering doesn't have to be completely gone for us to be joyful, to be happy, and to do, and to help. We don't need to be completely healthy and happy and peaceful to help. The monks and nuns, we all have stuff, but we know how to take care of it. And we create an environment for us to take refuge in, the spiritual family. And we cannot do this alone. This is the ancestors' calling. Another element I'd like to touch in is melon. People are asking, what can I trust? There's nothing I can trust. And I contemplate that. Trust comes with safety. When you feel unsafe, because we don't know what to trust. Do we trust ourselves? That needs training. So trust is not something deserves or it's there. But trust is a state that can be cultivated. And this requires our effort, our training, our ability to not lose ourselves. So trust is not something usually we think of, oh, do I trust him? And then they betray you. Right? Betrayal is the person forgetting. Right? So remembering, when you forget, is a kind of like mistrust. So do you trust yourself? And this needs to be cultivated. Most of the time we get carried away by our emotions, whether that's craving, fear, jealousy, and we betray something inside of us. And we lose a little bit of our stability. We no longer trust ourselves. You see, I'm trying to describe trust as an internal, I know I can handle this. Trust is a kind of also confidence in oneself. And when we have trust in ourselves, we can recognize where to trust. And when we get betrayed, we know, we don't blame because we know they're just forgetting. Betrayal is when something is forgotten. You make a commitment, and when you forget it, you don't remember, it's a kind of like you lost the trust. So maintaining trust in oneself is an internal, is a spiritual training. And it goes with the safe place, the solid place, the place where we can invest. And this requires training and practice. And trust is very changes, huh? It's organic, and you need to cultivate it. So if you're in a relationship, you need to cultivate it. You need to water each other's good seeds. This is also very important. If you don't cultivate, trust, like happiness, if you don't continue to nourish happiness in the relationship, in yourself, then it can, right? In a way, I have a brother, sometimes he shared with me, sometimes he undermines himself. He like very diligent. And then he do something and the bank account. There's something in us that, and so this is very part of our healing, to understand and to know that we have that habit. Why do we undermine ourselves? In the practice of meditation, we have the time to look into that. It's part of our healing. We have many habits from our ancestor, wholesome and unwholesome, skillful and not so skillful. And the practice of stopping and coming back to remember these things is a life after life, time, effort. You take a breath and I remember I have a strong habit of reacting. You betray yourself every time you react, right? Oh, I shouldn't have said that. I know I shouldn't have said that. That's a kind of forgetting, right? I know it's a good thing. I know I want to say the right thing, but every time, touch. That slowly we remember. And the next time, yeah. So the oven is hot, right? You become stronger. Slowly, your memory, your remembering becomes stronger. You see how it's so very doable? It is all possible. And this is what Plum Village we do here. Our shaved head, it just reminds us that this is what we do here. So every time, oh, that's hot. But also, we also remember that there's also beautiful, cool flower, fresh in the morning. So it's not just to remember your negative and kind of not so helpful habits, but we need to cultivate another habit of looking at what's right. Right now, we are safe. Right now, we have a home to return to, a room. We have blanket, we have clothing. And when we remember this, we also remember other people don't have clothes. They are not safe. You see, those two come together. You can cry and smile at the same time. And value and meaning comes from that. When we wake up in the morning, I like to lay there first. And this is something I had to train. I used to wake up very quick. I grew up in the city, so waking up slow is very. It's not productive. It's not. It's not. It's not. When you're young in the city, you got to be on the move. I don't know what's the word. You have to have a life. I grew up like that. You have to. So I used to jump out of bed and get everything done, and let's get to living, and run. And so in Plum Village, my roommates, actually, mostly my roommates, they, especially you wake up with a roommate who wakes up very slowly, you look like a monkey, and you make a lot of noise. So it was a training for me to wake up. Now I sometimes, most of the time I remember. I lay there and before I think about the day, I have a blanket, I'm warm, I'm slowly waking up. And I have my brothers living with me. So I go through this memory. It's different every morning. The Gatha is waking up this morning. I smile. There's 24 hours before me. I vow to live it fully in memory, not forgetfulness. This is the training. But you know, as all training, you fall and you trip and you forget, right? But every morning you do that, and slowly it actually becomes a habit. I don't do the Gatha. I wake up, you know, every morning is a little different. I look over, and I'm like, wow, the brothers went sitting. How nice. I'm still in bed. Before I wake up, I miss the sitting again. God, such a... Right? You see? Even in the midst of something wrong, you can... So the training to recognize the wonder, the happiness is Thai's gift to us. We all have suffering. We all have bad habits, not so wholesome. We all have reaction. But there's more to that. That's not enough. And this is the gift that our teacher wants us to wake up to remember that suffering is not enough. There's more to life. You're not just given two eyes to go around. You know, in the monastery, the monastic, we train to not have ill feelings, to live your life blameless. Isn't that beautiful? When I first learned that as a monk, I was like, that is like impossible. But it is so beautiful to walk around and move, afraid that you will maybe hurt something and do something unskillful. I know it's impossible, but what a beautiful way to live. You know, to open the door in a way that you don't disturb people. You know, to move around and not bump into people. In your body and in your mind, right? It's just a beautiful thing that we can cultivate, to not have ill feelings towards yourself, towards anyone in the room, towards anyone around the planet, even those who are causing destruction, who are living with craving and ignorance and hate. To not have any inkling of ill feeling, and to train like that, so that when it's time, you have a bank account to come back. A bank account of no ill feelings. It goes up. And that is the secret that Thai has given us, to live in a way where you are blameless and hopefully more skillful. I like the word blameless, kind of. Skillful, I'm not so skillful, and I try to be, but more and more I become more humble to to know that it still needs more work. We listen to one sound of the bell for us to cultivate this intention to live without harming with our thoughts, our body, our action, with our speech. Our practice to remember also is to remember that we also need to be real, to be realistic as well. Sometimes we have good days, sometimes we have not so, we're kind of grumpy, sometimes some feelings of sadness, loneliness, but that's okay. And to remember that it's okay. So this is something also I receive from Thai, is to be human. Not to be, to be human with ourselves, to be real. And this for me, to be authentic, something we can all work on. Because the reality is we do have difficulties, and there's things, there are people who are not so nice, there are people who are not practicing, they also need our love. But they do challenge us. And for us to come back and find enough healing to not make ourselves bleed, so that we can actually not contribute to the situation. And this for me is our path as a practitioner. So here we practice not just for ourselves, for our loved ones. Many of us, some of us have family members, difficult. So during the holidays, it's very challenging. It's difficult because we wish we didn't have to remember that they are in our life. But when it comes to the holiday, we cannot help but remember. And this could bring up some suffering, because it's still unresolved, it's still some pain. And we might be holding on to some pride, some resistance, some kind of anger. So the healing is also to allow ourselves to open up and know that the other person is also human. Maybe they don't know any better. They also have suffering. And we forget, usually when we suffer and it's caused by another person, we want to punish them. Or because we are very proud, no, I'm not suffering. So there's this tendency in us, in humans, I don't know, maybe a survival or something, we all have this kind of, I'm not suffering. So this for me, I had to heal a lot. I grew up in a family that was difficult situation. So as a young boy, young man, I grew up and I had to protect myself a little bit. I'm not getting hurt. So this is something that was kind of a habit I have. And so sometimes I think of the troubles in my family between my parents. So I had to train to melt a little bit. To become human is to melt. I remember just sitting, meditating, and melt. Allow your body, allow your pride, allow what you're holding on to, just melt. Don't need to hold on. We breathe in and we can bring their image up, the person that we don't want to remember. And know and remember they are human and they are also suffering. And in them, there are also difficulties that they don't know how to practice. And this has helped me with my father, my mother, my brothers, my sister. And slowly you expand. Slowly the ill will, smaller, the wholesome will, the good will. You want nothing more for them to suffer, nothing less than for them to suffer less, right? You want nothing more than for them to suffer less. Even the one causing you suffering. Join your two palms. Even if it's difficult, take your hand. Put it near your heart. Tonight we will practice touching the earth. It is a remembering our ancestor, remembering our loved ones, the ones who are challenging, the ones who are lovable. Both are your ancestor. And we feel more whole when that happens. It's like accepting your suffering and accepting your joy. Accepting those you don't want to remember. But now we train to remember them in a certain way. Right? Tonight, bring an image up. Bring that compassion up and remember them in a different way. This is possible. So this new year is just an opportunity, and we should do this every day of the year. But tonight we have a chance to come back to our ancestor, to our spiritual family, and to remember these to re-remember, to remember differently. That is possible. And that is a kind of freedom. No need to hold it tight anymore. So this is the great gift that we can offer to our ancestor, to Mother Earth, to become a whole human being, even with some difficulty. And we need your help. Thai has spent his whole life to build a Sangha, to build a family. This Plum village is from the mind of Thai and our ancestor. We feel safe here, we feel there is stability, solidity here. We need to all build a place like that. In your home, inside yourself, in your home, in your family, in your partnership, relationship. But it starts from you. You need to be that trustable person, the one who will not betray yourself, undermine yourself. don't react. Learn to breathe and come back to your footsteps, your breath, and make that a place that is dependable. Your breath, your body, and your mind. And from that, other people need us. This is Thai calling us. So it's not just about you and your suffering, but there are people out there that need us. So we need to build little Sangha community as well. So find skillful, we have many talents in our Sangha. We have educators here. Please make your classroom, after you become a happy teacher, a solid teacher, stable teacher, not reactionary teacher, but a revolutionary teacher. Make your classroom, your yoga studio, your workplace become stable and dependable. And it starts from you being example. Don't force it on others, but be the happy person, solid, stable person, dependable. And people will ask you, how do you do that? How come you're not reacting? Slowly. So this is, Thai's whole life work to build community, beloved community. And this is what our lonely world needs right now. People are unstable, they feel unsafe, they're feeling lonely, a lot of suicide, a lot of drugs, a lot of... so this is what we can offer to others in the city, in the place we live. So please, for the new year, in your home, in your workplace, put up things to remember, okay? This calligraphy Thai write is to help us remember. So print it out, get things. This is what in the monastery the monks and nuns do. The bell help us remember. The monks and nuns, the brothers and sisters, each other, we help us remember. When we walk, we help each other remember. We look around, we see signs of Thai around, it help us remember. So in your home, you need to recreate Plum Village, right? Put a happy face in your room, right next to your bed. Put a leaf. So do whatever you need to do to remember. The place I used to throw my shoes, I used to put a flower there. So I don't throw my shoes anymore, right? I like to fling my shoe. Okay? The flower remind me, huh? So wherever you have bad habits, put something to remind you. When you light an incense, you remember, Thai has given us something. It's time for us to cherish it, cultivate it, protect it, and share it. Not my practice. People need us to be stable, to be happy, and to live not in forgetfulness. Yes, we still have unskillfulness, suffering, but that's not it. That's not all. So please remind people that you're beautiful. Remind people that they are beautiful. They are human. They are very lucky to be alive. So thank you for coming to join us in this beautiful end of the year. We like to pretend so that we remember. So we renew ourselves, okay? So from now to the end of the year, use your time here, speak less. There will be some entertainment, but also that's not why we're here. There's something we need to remember. why we're here. So use your time here so we renew ourselves, okay? So the new year, more remembering, less forgetting. Thank you for your listening. We'll breathe with 3 sounds of the bell to know that there is enough happiness within us and all around us.